तस्मै नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। भक्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। 15 श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा। वेलकम टू ऑल फॉर आवर weekend Bhakti Vaibhav classes on Srimad Bhagavatam. So we continue our study on second canto. We completed 9th chapter, and we'll continue with our discussion on chapter 10. Before that, we will just see the summary of what is going on in this second canto in the last unit. Of course, this is starting from 8 to 10. So in 8th chapter, Parikshit Maharaj asked many questions, 21 questions, that reveals his enthusiasm to understand more deeper aspects of Krishna. And Sukadeva Goswami answers by quoting conversations of Parampara, Brahman, the Supreme Lord conversation, and also through Vidura and Maitreya conversations later on. So the first question is about Jiva and in connection with the material world. How did it attain the material body? The Jiva is spiritual. That was the question, first question. And that was also asked by Parikshit Maharaj. Of course, Parikshit Maharaj asked in the 8th chapter, 7th verse. And also about the material and spiritual difference. The difference between Jiva and the Supreme Lord. That is also asked by Brahmaji to Supreme Lord in the 9th chapter. And the third question, how are the different energies of the Lord are working? That Brahmaji asked. So this is in 9th chapter. Of course, the second question asked by Parikshit Maharaj includes spiritual forms and material forms. In order to answer the question, difference between the Jiva and Supreme Lord, Lord answered in the Chatushloki. So the Chatushloki questions are also here included here. And the question about how the Lord carries out his pastimes in relation to his energies, Parikshit asked in 23, 8th chapter. And also Brahmaji in 9th chapter. Please give the guidance to carry out the service without pride and bondage. That is the fourth question. And the next question in the 8th chapter of Parikshit Maharaj is that how this universe arose from the universal form. What we see currently in this universe, how all this happened. So that was the question in 8 chapters. And that will be answered in 10th chapter, especially this universal form, how it came into picture. That will be answered in 10th chapter. And also 10th chapter will have answers for 10 subject matters, which was himself, Shokadeva Goswami himself is saying about 10 subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Shonak heard about Vidramaitra Samvad in 13th chapter and he requests further to speak. So that's how the third canto starts with. So he will answer in 10th chapter. So Deva Goswami answers in 10th chapter that Dashalakshana of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the question that how the universe came into picture, that will be answered. Of course, the answers are we discussed about Chaturshloki, 9th chapter basically. All these we discussed in 9th chapter. The 1 to 9 verses or 1 to 3 verses talk about Jiva and material body relation. And further, second question was answered by quoting Chaturshloki also. We discussed elaborately. And especially the universal form will be answered in 10th chapter. Especially the universal form, how the creation happened, will be discussed from 10 to 35 verses, Sarga. So it will be answered that how the universe came into picture. So this is just a summary of the 9th and 10th chapters in relation to the questions asked by Parikshit Maharaj previously, and also Brahmaji in the 9th chapter quoting the same conversation. Okay, that was the short summary. So we'll continue our 10th chapter. So this 10th chapter, Prabhupada titles it as Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Yes, Bhagavatam itself is definitely it's answering all the questions. And in one sense that what Parikshit Maharaj asked, there is also all the questions, all answers are there in Bhagavatam, in the sense that this Dashalakshana, when we are speaking of Dashalakshana, that is giving the overall understanding of Bhagavatam also. In that sense also, Bhagavatam is answer to all questions. Because in Dashalakshana, when we speak about Ashraya Tattva, and also the 9 subject matters which supports the Ashraya Tattva, supports in the sense which is depend upon, all these 9 depends upon the Ashraya Tattva. All these 9 are dependent on the Ashraya. That's how it's answer to all the questions also. So can you please read the just division? Someone read.
Verses 1 to 9, 10 characteristics of a Mahapuran. Verses 10 to 35, Sarga, creation of the Virata Rupa. Answer to Srimad Bhagavatam 2.8.11. Verses 36 to 47, Visarga explained. Verses 48 to 51, Shonak Rishi inquires about Vidura, Maitreya Samvad.
Yeah. So the 9th chapter, in the 10th chapter, we will read about Sarga and Visarga mainly. Sarga means the primary creation generally, and Visarga is the secondary creation. These 2 terms are generally used because there are 10 topics. Of the 10 topics, Sarga, Visarga, Sarga, Visarga, Poshana, Uti, Manvantara, Sthanam, Poshanam, Uteha. We will read that in the verses they will come. Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Uteha, Manvantari, Shanukata, Nirodha, Muktirashraya. All these 10 are the subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam. or in one sense, these are all topics of Mahapuran, 10 subject matters. When you call Mahapuran, we know that we have 18 Puranas, and which are divided into 6, 6, and 6 in 3 modes: Sattvic Puran, Rajasic Puran, and Tamasic Puranas. Of these, there are called some Mahapurans. Mahapuran means there is Mahapuran, and there are Puranas, and there are Upapuranas. This is one more categorization. One categorization is based on the deities which are worshipped or emphasized in the particular Puranas. They are called Sattvic Puran, Rajasic Puran, and Tamasic Puran. Sattvic Puran basically emphasizes on the worship of Lord Vishnu. They are called Sattvic Puran, Padma Puran, and Garuda Puran, Vishnu Puran. These are all Sattvic Puranas. And Rajasic Puranas are mainly focused on worship of Lord Brahma and Mother Saraswati, etc. Of course, the content may be there, definitely. Worship of Lord Vishnu will be there, many Puranas, subject, but major portion, that's what it's categorized. Major portion will be worship of Lord Brahma and the controlling deities of passionate deities. Rajasic Puranas, Lord Brahma and Mother Saraswati especially, and Tamasic Puranas are focused on worship of Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati and Agni, also mentioned by Jiva Goswami. So these are the main categorization of Puranas based on the modes. Modes are basically, they are not in modes, but the people who are in the modes, particular modes, they worship these deities. That's why they are categorized like that. Otherwise, these are all emanation from Lord Vishnu himself. His breathing, the Vedas and Puranas and all the Upanishads, all the Vedic literature, Paurushaya, all these are all the breath of Lord Vishnu himself. So there is no kind of any modes in that. But because the people who are in different modes, they are attracted to particular with particular desires. They wanted to fulfill those desires, and they are attracted to particular personalities. And these are all opportunities are given by the Lord himself by giving these shastras, so that they can gradually elevate themselves. The main purpose is not just to fulfill those desires. The main purpose is to gradually purify themselves, the conditioned nature of enjoying mentality, and return to him finally. That is the main purpose of the Shastras, to give them the chance to purify themselves and to understand their position and again come back to him. That is the main purpose of the creation of the scriptures. I'm unable to remember one beautiful verse is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Veda Purane Kaila Shastra. By out of compassion, Krishna made all the Shastras and Puranas and all the scriptures available for the living entities. The verse says like that. Anybody remembers the verse? Anyway. Okay, so Krishna made all these Puranas, and these are divisions of based on the modes, and another categorization is based on the content. What are the characteristics of the Purana? So if any Purana focuses on this subject matter, 10 subject matters, then it's called Mahapuran. So what are the 10 subject matters? We will read the first verse itself says that Atta Sarga Visarga Sthanam Poshanamotaya Manvantareshanu Nirodha Muktirashraya. If any Purana has this 10 subject matters, it's called Mahapuran. And if any Purana has 5 subject matters out of these 10, especially Sarga, Pratisarga, Vamshan, Manvantara, Vamshanucharita, of course the same terms are in a different words are used by Sutta Goswami in 12th canto. explaining the same 10 subject matters. He used different words. So based on that, if there are 5 subject matters, then it's called Purana. If less than that, then called Upapurana. So that's how it's categorized again. And of all the Mahapuranas, Srimad Bhagavatam is entirely different. Though its categorization is Sattvic Puran, but it is entirely a different subject matter. Also, Srila Jiva Goswami proves in Tata Sandarbha how Srimad Bhagavatam is entirely a different authority, and its conclusion of all the scriptures. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumardo Mahan. So Srimad Bhagavatam is and we know, yeah, this is a beautiful shloka. Maya Mukta Jivera Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan Jivera Kripa Kaila Krishna Veda Puran. So Maya Mukta Jivera Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan. They don't have the knowledge about Krishna, Swata Krishna Gyan. Jivera Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Puran. To show compassion to the jivas, Jivera Kripaya Kaila. To show compassion to the other living entities so that they can read, understand, and realize their conditioned nature, their suffering nature, and understand also the beauty of Krishna, the wonderful activities of Krishna, the nature of the spiritual world. So then again they can come back to him. Maya Mukta Jivera Nahi Swata Krishna Jnana Jivera Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Puran. Thank you. So Krishna made available all this wonderful literature. So this is Mahapuran. So out of all the Puranas, Srimad Bhagavatam stands out. So in general, Sattvic Puranas also, though they are mentioning about Vishnu Bhakti, but their goal is many times emphasized as moksha only. Even through Bhakti also, their main focus is emphasis on mukti, attaining liberation. Yeah, many people understand liberation means merging in Brahman. Many of people do Bhakti also. Even many of the Vaishnavas also don't understand the personal liberation. Even through Bhakti also, many people they understand Bhakti is also one of the process to attain liberation. So, but because the scriptures explain like that. That's how Narada Muni, you have read in 5th chapter of first canto, how Narada Muni kind of a chastising Vasudev for inspiring people for various kinds of karma kanda, and even up to the point of liberation, and not glorifying the Supreme Lord's personal aspects. So that's how Srimad Bhagavatam was rewritten or modified or edited, which was already written by Vasudev. And that's how the Srimad Bhagavatam, though it's called Sattvic Mahapuran, but it's Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. This is for Paramahamsas. And definitely it's for everyone. Samsarinam Karunaya Purana Visham. It's also for samsaris, those who are caught up in the samsara, definitely. But its main subject matter is Prema Pumardo Mahan. It's for those also those who are want to attain the highest Purushartha Prema. So Srimad Bhagavatam stands out in that terms. So that's how this chapter also explains about 10 subject matters of Mahapuran. And it focuses on Ashraya Tattva. Though other Puranas focuses on these 10 subject matters, but they may not be exclusively mentioning about the 10th subject matter, which is Ashraya. What is Ashraya? We will read, we will understand from these verses. Ashraya is not different from the Supreme Lord. So that Ashraya is not much emphasized, though they are speaking these 10 subject matters, even other Mahapuranas, like Skanda Purana, etc. So there may be subject matter of Ashraya, but that may not be the highlighting of the Ashraya, because Vyasadeva exclusively focused here on the glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. This is Ashraya, and all these 9 are also focused on taking one from all these understandings till Ashraya. All these are explained, all 9 are explained in terms of glorifying the Ashraya only, because that is the complete shelter for all these 9 also. So this is the first subject matter from verses 1 to 9, and the 10 subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we start with the first verse. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthanam Poshanamutayah Manvantare Shanukatha Nirodho Muktirashrayah. Please read.
Sri Shukadev Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, sub-creation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of Manus, the science of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the Samam Bonam.
Yeah. So these are the 10 subject matters. One thing is that just like we have a chronological study going from 1 canto to 12th canto. And another way of seeing this is seeing from the subject matter, thematic study. That's why we call thematic studies. And one way of approaching is thematic study, or according to themes you study. Let us suppose in Gita, one thing is to go from chapter by chapter. Another way is to study, let us suppose, take the aspect of relation between soul and super soul. Okay, you study from 2nd chapter, you study from 13th chapter, like that. This is a thematic study. So based on themes. So this is based on themes. That there are 10 subject matters in Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, particular canto also represents majorly particular subject matter. That's how they are also divided. Just like uh, 2nd and 3rd canto, Prabhupada explains this also in the purport. Beautiful explanation. 2nd, 3rd cantos explained about creation. In fact, 4th canto also, 5th canto is about the position of the living entities, sthanam, sarga and visarga, like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 5th is like a portion. 5th is like position. Position is called sthanam, and portionam is 6th canto is kind of a portionam. We will read all these. These are all explained in the further verses. The definitions are given. This is called lakshanas are given in the further verses. Okay, we'll go through them. Basically, these cantos are also divided into according to themes. Particular canto is major part of the canto is dealing with a particular lakshana. So that is the main point here. Dasamasya vishuddhyartham navanam iha lakshanam varnayati mahatmana shrutenardhena chandasa. Is it?
Translation. To isolate the transcendence of the Samambonam, the symptom of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic inference, sometimes by direct explanation, and sometimes by summary explanation given by the great sages.
So Dasamasya Vishuddhyartham, only for the sake of Samam and Bonam. So Navanam Ihalakshanam, all the 9 are mentioned, all the symptoms, other 9. So all the 9 are dependent on the supporting the Dasama Lakshana, Vishuddhyartham. Paranayati Mahatmana, Shrutena Dhenanjasa. So to establish that Dashama, the Ashraya Tattva, all these 9 are explaining in terms of both ways. Shrutena Ardhena. So Shrutena Ardhena Anjasa means what? Shrutena by Vedic evidences, and by Ardhena direct explanation, and Anjasa summarily, 3 ways. They establish the summary establish the Samanam Bonam, the Ashraya. In these 3 ways, all the 9 will establish the 10th one. That is the meaning. So, of course, here there are different acharyas have different understandings given. That Shrutena, of course, same meaning. Shrutena means direct meaning. Ardhena is a tatparya, indirect way of explanation. And Anjasa is a summary explanation. Of course, here different meaning is given, but it's almost the same way. One is direct explanation, one is indirect explanation, and one is summary explanation. That's how Vishnu Jagatar explains. But the main point is that all these 9 use different ways to establish the Ashraya Tattva, the 10th subject matter, Samanam Bonam, Supreme Absolute Krishna. So from text 3 to text 9, these 10 are defined in particular ways. What exactly it means? Sarga means what? Visarga means what? Poshana means what? We'll go through that. Bhutamatendriyadhyam janma sarga udahritah brahmano guna vaishamyat visarga purusha smrutah. Is it?
The elementary creation of 16 items of matter, namely the 5 elements, fire, water, air, earth, air, and sky, sound, form, taste, smell, and touch, and the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and mind, is known as sarga, whereas subsequent resultant interaction of the modes of material nature is called visarga.
Please read that one first.
In order to explain the 10 divisional symptoms of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 7 continuous verses.
Continue.
The first of these under reference pertains to the 16 elementary manifestations of earth, water, etc., with material ego composed of material intelligence and mind. The subsequent creation is a result of the reactions of the above mentioned 16 energies of the first Purusha, the Mahavishnu incarnation of Govinda, as later explained by Brahma in his Brahma Samhita 5.74 as follows.
Yeah, he quotes that one famous verse. So here, basically in this verse, two are defined: Sarga and Visarga. Bhutamatrendriya, Dhyam, Janmas, Sarga Udahritaha. What is called Sarga? Bhuta. Bhuta means 5 elements. Because Prabhupada also defines in the translation. The 5 elements, 5 gross elements. Matra. Matra means you might have read in our 2nd canto 5th chapter, the section that Matra, Tanmatras, object perceived by the senses, Tanmatras. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Correct, 5. So the objects by the senses. Indriyas, the 5 Indriyas. Yeah, if we count only, Prabhupada here only counted on the Karma Indriyas. The knowledge acquiring senses. Jnanendriyas are counted here, Indriya. And Dhyam. Dhyam is mind, is explained as a meaning of mind. So that's so based on how you include the senses in the definition. Based on that, the number will change. Generally, it's 16. It's called. Sometimes it is called 17. Sometimes it's 22. Based on how you include other senses also. If you include Indriya, if you include both Karmendriyas and Jnanendriyas, then 5 more will be added, 21. If you include the false ego here in Dhyam and include the mind here extra, then it becomes 22, 23. So based on that, there are different understandings, but basically these are all creation called Sarga. These are all created by Supreme Lord himself. Primary creation, this is called Sarga. Anytime we hear primary creation, Sarga, is done by the Lord himself. He gives the raw materials. And the Visarga, the secondary creation, as defined, Brahmano Guna Vaishamya Visarga Purusha Smritaha. So then what is created by Brahma is called Visarga. That's the just that definition is given, because the subsequent resultant interaction of the modes of material nature is called Visarga. That's what the remaining whatever is done by Brahma is called, of course, here it's not given, but in the translation is given, Brahmana, Brahma, the first Purusha, is creates. That's why it's called Visarga. Then Prabhupada explains how things manifest. The first of these under references pertain to 16 elements manifestation, earth, water, etc. All these are creation of Mahavishnu. So you know that first from what the explanations you might have seen in the second canto. Once Karanarnava Sai Vishnu, Karana Sai Vishnu or Karanarnava Sai Vishnu manifests, he lies down on Karana ocean, he lies down. And from him, the creation starts in the sense of actual creation, a primary creation. So that's what Prabhupada is quoting this famous verse. Yah Karanarnava Jale Pachasma Yoga. Nidramananta Jagadanta Saroma Kupa Adhar Shakti Mavalam Viparam Samurtim Govindam Adipurushattamam Vaja. So from him all the Brahmandas, Ananta Koti Brahmandas come from his force. Please read the underlined portion.
Thus, the original creation is directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Brahman, and the secondary creation, as a reactionary result of the original ingredients, is made by Brahma. Thus, the activities of the whole universe are started.
About this one also you can read.
Sorry. The internal potency of the Supreme Lord is identical with the Supreme Lord, and the external potency is enlivened in contact with the internal potency. The parts and parcels of the internal potency which react in contact with the external potency are called marginal potency or the living entities.
So just Prabhupada defines what is the categorization. The internal potency of the Supreme Lord is identical with the Supreme Lord. This is spiritual potency. This is marginal potency. The external potency is marginal potency. Is the enlivened in contact with the internal potency. Enlivened basically by the glance of the Lord, the external energy, the Prakriti, external potency starts manifesting things around. So enlivened. Basically Krishna glances, then it starts, Prakriti starts manifesting the creation. And now marginal potency. The parts and parcels of the internal potency which react in contact with the external potency are called marginal potency or living entities. They have the tendency to be influenced by the external potency because of their desire. That's how Prabhupada defines these three aspects: internal, external, and marginal potencies. Thus, original creation is directly by Supreme Lord, and the secondary creation, as a result of that, is made by Brahma. Yeah, Prabhupada makes it clear here. Result of original ingredients made by Brahma. So that is stated here in third verse, Sarga and Visarga. So we are seeing the definitions. So whenever you see the Sarga means primary creation, means we immediately need to understand, okay, all the 24 elements or 16 elements, basically all these are created by Vishnu. And the secondary creation, how to make the bodies, what are the different bodies, how to avoid different living entities. So this is all done by Brahma. So it's you need to understand. Text 4. Titirvaikunta Vijayaha Poshanam Tadanugraha Manvantarani Saddharma Otaya Karma Vasanaha. Please read.
The right situation for the living entities is to obey the laws of the Lord and thus be in perfect peace of mind under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The manus and the laws are meant to give right direction in life. The impetus for activity is the desire for fruitive work.
Yeah. Okay. We'll read the shloka. So Sthiti defined as Vaikuntha Vijaya. So Sarga and Visarga are explained in second, third, and fourth cantos. Main subject matter, and we have already read. You already went through just thread of understanding creation. So it's quite tough and little bit complex to conceive the creation. But as mentioned by Sukadeva Swami himself, we understand the creation aspects. So Sthiti is a Vaikuntha Vijaya. It is defined as Vaikuntha Vijaya. Sthiti means what is it here? The right situation, proper translates. Victory of the Lord of Vaikuntha. So Vaikuntha Vijaya, Vaikuntha is also name of the Lord. Also Vaikuntha is a place. So why it is mentioned Sthiti Vaikuntha Vijaya? So Prabhupada little bit defines all these things, but mainly Vaikuntha Vijaya is explained by Srila Swami that he is the Lord made such a rules and regulations for every place, and all the living entities has to abide by the rules and regulations, and no one can defeat him in following these rules and regulations to stay in particular places like Swarga for those people who do punya, and the upper planets for upper planets above Swarga are those who do tapasya and yoga, and the Naraka planets, those who do all kinds of sinful activities, and the Earth planet who had both tendencies of those who have kind of a karma, which has basically both punya and papa, who wants to reap the karma bhumi is the earthly planets, and all the Vaikuntha planets, those who cross beyond the modes of nature, those who cross the bondage of karma, they are situated in Vaikunthas. And the Patala, the down planetary systems, those who have Rajasic Punya, and the Sattvic Punya is they are staying in Swarga above the earthly planets. They are Sattvic Punya, and the Rajasic Punya is a slight differentiation between the Punya also. Most of Rajasic Punya is on the down planets, Patala, these below planets, all these planets. So basic point is that Lord made such a situations, places according to different rules and regulations, and all the living entities has to abide. There is no question of any defeat in that. So that's why it's called Vaikuntha Vijaya. Vaikuntha, the name of the Lord himself, because he is the son of Vaikuntha. I think in the 9th canto or 8th canto, there it comes. This particular Manvantara avatar, particular incarnation, particular Manvantara, Lord appears as the son of Vaikuntha, Mother Vaikuntha. That's why his name is called Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha Vijaya. So that's how he's called. His name is Vaikuntha, and he is always conquered. He cannot be defeated in this arrangement, in this law and order. No one can defeat him. So that's why it's called Vaikuntha Vijaya. So those places is a position explained in 5th canto, different places where all living entities stay. But the main focus is, even when they explain about the positions of different living entities, different lokas, they explain in 5th canto. Though they are explaining, but the main focus is to glorify the Lord. What the residents of those planetary systems do, they're glorifying the Lord at different places. The main point is the glorification of the Lord only. There also different positions are explained in different planetary systems. So that is called Sthiti, the position, right situation. Vaikuntha Vijaya, it's defined as. It's not just, Bhagavatam is not just stating, okay, these planets are staying there and these are lying here, this is the position of these planetary systems. That is not the main point. The main point is Vaikuntha Vijaya. He is the Lord, is the main personality who made all these rules and regulations, and living entities cannot be defeated. cannot defeat this law, and Lord is only glorified there. That's the main point. Poshana, Tadanugraha. Poshana means Poshanam, especially sixth canto is focused on Poshanam. First canto also. Poshanam defined by Acharyas. Poshanam is you nourish, you maintain. Poshanam, Tadanugraha, by the mercy of the Lord. His causeless mercy, Tadanugraha. That's how it's defined, Poshanam. And Manvantrani, how he maintains? He maintains by his mercy. He, of course, sixth canto explains the pastimes of Ajamil and Chitraketu Maharaj and other personalities. Basically, though devotees maintained, there is no need of maintaining the pure devotees, because, of course, they also maintained by Lord Himself. But especially those who are those who did some kind of mistakes in their following dharma and their bhakti, they are also maintained. That's how we see a Jamil pastime and Chitraketu pastime coming in Gajendra pastime in sixth canto. So they might have done some mistakes, but still Lord maintains them, nourishes them. That is called Poshanam. Tatanugraha, by His mercy. That is explained in sixth canto. Poshanam. Manvantrani Sadharma. Manvantrani. First comes Yotayaha, Karma Vasana. Manvantrani Sadharma. All the Manvantras are explained. How it's explained? By establishing Sadharma, right direction to give the Manus. Then the laws are mentioned to give right direction. So Sadharma, Utaya, Karma Vasana. Vasana here mainly desire for fruity work. The impetus for activity is the desire for fruity work. So these are all explained in different cantos. We will see in the purport also. Please read.
Wow. This material world is created, maintained for some time, and again annihilated by the will of the Lord. The ingredients for creation and subordinate creator Brahma are first created by Lord Vishnu in his first and second incarnations. The first Purusha incarnation is the Mahavishnu, and the second Purusha incarnation is the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, from whom Brahma is created. The third Purusha Avatara is the Kshirodakshai Vishnu, who lives as the super soul of everything in the universe and maintains the creation generated by Brahma. Shiva is one of the many sons of Brahma, and he annihilates the creation. Therefore, the original creator of the universe is Vishnu, and he is also the maintainer of the created beings by his causeless mercy. As such, it is the duty of all conditioned souls to acknowledge the victory of the Lord and thus become pure devotees and live peacefully in this world where miseries and dangers are always in existence. The conditioned souls who take this material creation as the place for satisfaction of the senses and thus are illusioned by the external energy of Vishnu remain again to be subjected to the laws of material nature, creation and destruction.
Yeah.
In the
So Prabhupada, yes, thank you. So Prabhupada explaining about how Lord expands Himself to create this universe. Just he explained about Purusha Avataras and the maintenance of Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva, how they maintain, how they create, maintain and destroy. And how all these three are functioning in their creation. And just Prabhupada mentions about the victory of the Lord. About it is a duty of all conditioned souls to acknowledge the victory of the Lord. Means they cannot defeat the Lord. That's the main meaning. Because He ordained everything. He ordained is not by force, just to help the living entities only. Just to create a facility for the living entities to become pure devotees and live peacefully in this world. Also, because miseries and dangers are always in existence. At least by following the rules and regulations, one can be happy a little bit to execute the devotional service. So that's how Prabhupada explains about this aspect. Prabhupada continues the explanation of creation, the aspects of creation, why the living entity is coming to this creation, why they are suffering. Prabhupada explains more deeper. The conditioned souls being unaware of this simple fact because of forgetting their relationship with the Lord of Vaikuntha and try to plan out a permanent life in this material world. Because that's why they are suffering. So the only means is to practice bhakti and go back to Godhead. So this forgetfulness is so strong, due to illusion, due to influence of Maya, that the conditioned souls not at all want to go back to Godhead. By the sense enjoyment, they become victims of birth and death repeatedly and thus spoil their human lives. The Prabhupada is more explaining about the conditionings. Please read this one.
The directive scriptures made by the Manus in different ages and millenniums are called Sadharma, good guidance for the human beings who should take advantage of all the revealed scriptures for their own interest to make life's successful termination.
Continue.
The creation is not false, but it is a temporary manifestation just to give a chance for the conditioned souls to go back to Godhead. The desire to go back to Godhead and functions performed in that direction form the right path of work. When such a regulated path is accepted, the Lord gives all protection to his devotees by his causeless mercy, while the non-devotees risk their own activities to bind themselves in a chain of fruitive reactions. The word
So these are all, yeah, thank you. So these are all the directive scriptures made by Manus in different ages are called Sadharma. They all laws are given. The Manus are given Sadharma. That's how it explained. Manvantarani Sadharma. That's how it explained. They give, especially Manu, Swayambhu Manu. We have Manu Samhita. So these are all to follow so that we can purify ourselves and then go back to Godhead. These are all just to maintain the law and order or to be given to the living heritage. Yeah. Herein lies the intelligence of human life, and one should desire to perform the activities of life in that way. Prabhupada defines the same thing. So we need to follow according to the laws are given by Manus, what is maintained, what is given to us. Okay. Next verse. Avataranacharitam Hareschasyanuvartinam Vamsam Ishakatha Prokta Nanakyanopabhrumhitaha. Please read.
The signs of God describe the incarnation of the personality of Godhead and his different activities, together with the activities of his great devotees.
Yeah. So I increase the font. Hope it's okay now. Are you able to see the font? Somebody mentioned they're unable to see the font or the text. Size is okay now, or should I increase more?
It's okay, Prabhu, for us.
Okay, Prabhupada.
Okay. Yeah, now it's Ishanakatha. Avataranacharitam Hareschasyanuvartina Vamsam Ishakatha Prokta. So signs of God describes the incarnations of personality of Godhead and his different activities together with activities of his great devotees. The Lord and his devotees, their pastimes, their katha is called Isha Katha. So this is the one of the subject matters. Please read this one.
The merciful Lord, out of his causeless mercy, descend to the various planets in the material world and act for the salvation of the conditioned souls. That makes the history and narrations worth reading. Srimad Bhagavatam offers such transcendental topics of the Lord in relationship with the great devotees. Therefore, the topics of the devotees and the Lord are to be given respectful oral reception.
Yeah. So when we give oral reception to the kathas, Srimad Bhagavatam and the narrations of the devotees of the Lord, the conditioned souls will be more and more purified. So that is called Ishanukatha. Ishanukatha, generally it's more of ninth canto have a lot of description the Ishana Katha. Text 6. Nirodosyanushyayanam atmana saha shaktibihi muktirhityanadaru muktirhitvanyatha rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. Is it?
The merging of the living entity along with his conditional living tendency with the mystic lying down of Mahavishnu is called the winding up of cosmic manifestation. Liberation is a permanent situation of the form of living entity after he gives up the changeable gross and subtle material bodies.
Yeah. So here Nirodha means they are sleeping condition. Nirodha, winding up of cosmic manifestation. That's what Prabhupada maintains. Mystic lying down. So sleeping. Both Nirodha is basically after a kalpa, after a day of Brahma, all the living entities, because now pralaya happens. After the day of Brahma, all the living entities take shelter of Garbhoda Sai Vishnu, and they are in slumber. They are in complete sleep. That is not liberation, but it's just a temporary shutdown. So that's called Nirodha. So that is called cosmic winding up of cosmic manifestation. The temporary purpose. Also after Brahmaji's lifetime, that pralayas, different pralayas, last time we discussed. Nitya pralaya, Naimitya pralaya, Prakritik pralaya, and Atyantik pralaya. So Naimitya pralaya and Prakritik pralaya is called Nirodha, where the living entities are sleeping. After day of Brahma, after the life of Brahma, all the living entities take shelter of Karna Sai Vishnu. Of course, if one is liberated, Atyantik pralaya, if one is liberated from the bondage, then it's a mukti, right? That's called mukti. That is defined next. Liberation is a permanent situation of the living entity, form of living entity. So that is called mukti, Atyantik pralaya. This is a famous lines Prabhupada many times quotes. Muktir hitvanyatha rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. So this is, from here he defines, he quotes this one. So these are the different terminologies and explanations and definitions. Please read.
As we have discussed several times, there are two types of living entities. Most of them are ever liberated or Nitya Muktas, while some of them are ever conditioned. The ever conditioned souls are apt to develop a mentality of lording it over the material nature, and therefore the material cosmic creation is manifested to give the ever conditioned souls two kind of facilities. Number one facility is that the conditioned soul can act according to his tendency to lording it over the cosmic manifestation. And second, the other facility gives the conditioned soul a chance to come back to Godhead.
Yeah, continue.
Nirod. So after the winding up of cosmic manifestation, most of the conditioned souls merge into the existence of Mahavishnu, personality of Godhead, lying in his mystic slumber to be created again in the next creation. Mukti. But some of the conditioned souls who follow the transcendental sound in the form of Vedic literatures and are thus able to go back to Godhead attain their original spiritual bodies after quitting the conditional gross and subtle material bodies.
Yeah, this is the difference between Nirodha and Mukti. So, because after a particular time there is a pralaya, and they take shelter of Garbhoda Sai Vishnu. Again, they will be manifesting their desires, and they will be given chance to perfect them. Those who are perfected and liberated, they will be going back to Godhead. So Prabhupada defines more on, Prabhupada explains more about cycle of getting material bodies and solution to get out. The material conditional bodies develop out of living entities' forgetfulness of the relationship with Godhead. Now Prabhupada more explains about how we forget our relationship and we are caught up here in the cycle of birth and death. Reading or hearing such transcendental literatures helps one to become liberated. Whatever Krishna gives us. Just like every product comes with manual. I mean, you might have heard example. Every creation has a manual, how it functions, how to take care of it, how to maintain it, what should have, I mean, how to do troubleshooting if there is any kind of problem with this device, and how to maximize the efficiency of the product, how to optimally utilize the product. There are so many directions are given in the manual. Everything is given in the manual. So similarly, for this creation, Krishna gave the wonderful manuals in the form of Vedic literatures at different levels also. So by consulting them, we can definitely understand how this world is working, what is beyond, or how we need to function in this world. So like that. Shastras generally are compared to in three ways. In one way, the Shastras are like Shastras are like a torchlight. Shastras are like mirrors, and Shastras are like windows. How are they? Shastras are like torchlight in the sense that material world is a dark place. In a dark place, if you have a torchlight, we need to have torchlight or lamp to see what is there and how to go ahead in the darkness. It gives us a direction. So similarly, Shastras explain, hey, what is there in this material world, how it functions, how you need to be, where you are going, what are the pitfalls, how to go ahead. So in that way, Shastras are torchlight while we are living in this material world. What to do, what not to do, and how to live a proper life. What are the different rules and regulations? How to maintain our life. So these are all different directions. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilidam Tasmai Shri Gurave. Spiritual Master gives us a torchlight of knowledge. So Shastras are like torchlight. So by that, of course, many sections of the scriptures explain about how we need to function in this world. In that way, they are torchlights. And Shastras are also mirrors. What is the function of the mirror? Mirror is to just to see ourselves, or see ourselves in the sense like how we are looking. I mean, seeing ourselves in the mirror. It reflects our own form. So similarly, Shastras reflect our own external and internal conditions. They tell us what is the internal condition. It shows the actual reality, where we are, how we are, how to go ahead. So in that way, seeing ourselves, seeing our progress, in that way we can Cheto Darpanamarjanam. So the even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu compares it as a mirror, cleansing the mirror of our heart. So Shastras explain about they are like mirrors. They show where we are, what is our condition. Many of the sections they explain about the symptoms of our disease condition, symptoms of a healthy condition. Even in Bhagavad Gita also, many verses, 12th chapter, 10th chapter, 9th chapter, 2nd chapter, Sita Pragya Saka Vasha Samadhisthi Shakeshava. So all these qualities of liberated souls, surrendered souls, established in Brahma Bhuta stage, 14th chapter, all these explain many qualities explained so that we see ourselves where we are. And Shastra also gives the window, like they are like windows. Windows, through window we see if we are in the top floor of 50th floor, we see through a beautiful scenery through window. Or we get a overview of a beautiful scenic place. So similarly, Shastra shows the windows to spiritual world especially. How is spiritual world? What are there in the spiritual world? What things are happening in the spiritual world? They are like windows to spiritual world. Many sections of scriptures explain about spiritual world. Even in Gita, 15th chapter, explain about spiritual world. Asat bhashate sujuna shashanko vanapavakaha. many of the even just now we went through the revelation of Vaikuntha. How what is there in Vaikuntha planet? How people are living in Vaikuntha? What are their characteristics? What are their qualities? All these are explained in scripture. So scriptures acts like a windows to spiritual world. So in this way, scriptures are giving us, helping us to liberate ourselves, acting like a torchlights, acting like a mirrors, acting like a windows, to inspire us more and more to come out of this conditional life. One who is fortunate enough to get this information through transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam becomes permanently liberated to occupy his proper place in kingdom of God. Prabhupada is encouraging here to read more and more so that we cross this material existence by purifying our gross and subtle forms, giving up our gross and subtle forms, which are the products of ignorance, and we can attain to the highest place. So that is called mukti. Nirodha and mukti are defined. Now the final subject matter, ashraya. Abhashascha nirodhascha yatosti adhyavasiyate sa ashraya param brahma paramatmeti shabdyate. Please read.
The Supreme One, who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul, is the Supreme Source of the cosmic manifestation, as well as its reservoirs and winding up. Thus, he is the Supreme Fountainhead, the Absolute Truth.
So how is ashraya is defined? Abhasascha nirodhascha. Starting from sarga to nirodha. So that's how. Abhasa is the cosmic manifestation, sarga. Starting from that till nirodha. Nirodhascha, all these till mukti. Yato asti adhyavasiyate sa ashrayaha. The Supreme One, who is celebrated as Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul, is the supreme source of cosmic manifestation as well as it's a reservoir and winding up till that point. Nirodhascha. Ashraya till Nirodha. It's called Ashraya. Param Brahma. And this is also called as Param Brahma. Paramatmeti Shabdyate. Do you remember any verse saying that Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaneti Shabdyate Tattvam Tattvavitas Ajnanamadvayam. Yeah. Tattvam Tattvavitas Ajnanadvayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaneti Shabdyate. So here that same Ashraya is defined as Param Brahma. It's called as Paramatma. And iti includes even the Bhagavan aspect. That's what Prabhupada explains. Let us read. Please read.
The synonyms for the Supreme Source of all energies are given in the very beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Janmadasya Yataha. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. And in the second chapter, Vadanti Tat Tattva Vidasaha. Tattvam Yaja Janmanam Advayam. Brahmatmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaneti Sabhyate. Here the synonyms are Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. The word iti used in the verse under discussion completes the synonymous and thus indicates Bhagavan.
Yeah. So the word iti includes Brahma. Brahma is explained as Param Brahma. Paramatma is directly used. Paramatma iti. Iti is using as a Bhagavan. So it is indicating Krishna only. Indicating the Supreme Absolute Truth Krishna. That's what Prabhupada explains. That it is explaining about Krishna only. Ashraya. Ashraya means Krishna. That's the main point. Ashraya is the main point, is Krishna only.
Should I read, Prabhu?
1 minute. Please don't use any annotations, etc. Okay. Yeah, so here Krishna Krishna is the meaning of Ashraya, as Prabhupada explains, and verse itself is saying that Ashraya is defined as Krishna, and Prabhupada is quoting from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Also, Krishna is established as the Ashraya Tattva that is mentioned. Thus, by general conclusion, Lord Krishna is ultimate source of all energies, and the word Krishna means that. That is the Ashraya Tattva. So now Prabhupada explains about different cantos and different tattvas. Till now we read about 10 tattvas, and he will explain about that one. Please read.
Glory of Krishna is throughout 12 cantos. In first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, this truth is indicated in the questions and answers by Sutta Goswami and great sages like Saunaka, and in the first and second chapters of the canto, this is explained. In the third chapter, this subject is more explicit, and in fourth chapter, even more explicit.
Yeah.
Thus, in the second canto, the absolute truth as the personality of Godhead is further emphasized, and the indication is the Supreme Lord Krishna. The summary of Srimad Bhagavatam in fourth verses, as we have already discussed, is so next. Third, this Supreme Personality of Godhead in the ultimate issue is confirmed by Brahma in the Brahma Samhita as Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. So it is concluded in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The complete subject matter is elaborately explained in the 10th and 11th cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Fourth, in the matter of Manvantaras or regions of Manus, such as the Swayambhu Manvantara and Chakshusva Manvantara, as they are discussed in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna is indicated in the 8th canto in reference to the Vaivasvata Manvantara. The same subject is explained indirectly, and in the 9th canto, the same purport is there. In the 12th canto, the same is further explained specifically regarding the different incarnations of the Lord. Thus, it is concluded by studying the complete Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Sri Krishna is the ultimate someone one or the ultimate source of all energy. And according to the grades of worshippers, the indications of the nomenclature may be differently explained as Narayana, Brahman, Paramatma, etc.
Yeah. So in all these cantos, Krishna is only glorified by Shrutena, Arthena, Anjasa, by directly, by indirectly, Tatparya, and by summarily. Everywhere Krishna is only glorified. That's what Prabhupada mentioning various subject matters here. And Manvantras and creation and in aspects of creation in all the subject matters Prabhupada quoting here. And that's how Krishna is established. And Krishna is glorified. Okay, 8th verse. Yo adhyatmiko yam purushaha so aso yevadidhaivikaha yas tatro bhaya vichedaha purusho hi adibhautikaha.
The individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the Adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Avidaivik. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adibhautik person.
So starting from almost here, it explains more of in terms of technical terms of creation aspects. Is defining now. Sukadeva Goswami is defining particular terms. Don't too much worry about these technical terms, but let us understand the concept, then it will be easy. So Jiva is a spirit soul is always. When the Jiva is covered, has two coverings, right? The subtle covering and the gross covering. The subtle covering is called Adhyatma. It's always a subtle covering, Upadis, the mind, intelligence, and false ego. The subtle covering is called Adhyatma. And the gross covering, that's why you see Adhyatma is possessed by sense organs, is mentioned here. Instrument of the different instrument of this called Adhyatmic person. Person means it's not a personality. Here it is called Purusha in the sense that the Upadhi of subtle body, Upadhi of gross body. Upadhi means designation of subtle body and gross body. Or it's called as Purusha here. But it's not referring to any kind of a personality in that sense, in one sense. But that is also called Purusha only. Yeah. So the subtle body is called Adhyatmika and the gross body is called Adi Bhautika. So you remember just this point so that it will be easy in further also when we explain things, it will be easy for you. So the gross body and the subtle body is called Adhyatma, the gross body is called Adi Bhautika. And who controls these two is called Adi Daivika. So the controlling personality, the Adi Daivika controlling deity. So this is the main point of this verse. The gross body, living entity has two bodies, subtle body and gross body. And both these two are also controlled by some other personality. It's called Adi Daivika. Because we are not in control of these two. Right? If we are in control, we will be in ecstasy. After every day morning and we have to run to nature calls. We are not in control. Of course, some yogis have special controls, maybe to some extent, little extent. But we are not in control of everything. So our eyelids doesn't have any control by us, and many parts of the body we don't have our control. If we have exclusive control on our own body, all the parts of the body, then how they are going to decay or stop functioning? If somebody has a paralysis, I mean, if he has a control, then why didn't he again get the faculty of working with that limb, paralytic limb, either leg or hand or brain? No, we don't have control, full control basically. We have some control, little control. We think we have control. That's the main problem. So yeah, the main point is that we are being given particular instruments, subtle body and gross body, to function in this world, to fulfill our desires. These are all creation by Lord Himself. He gave us these facilities, and He gave some other personalities as the controllers of these bodies also. The subtle body and gross body, they are elements, and controller of these elements are being appointed by the Lord Himself. They are called Adi Daivika. Sorry, Adi Daivika, correct. So Adhyatmika is subtle body. Adi Bhautika is the gross body, gross elements. And Adi Daivika is basically the controllers of these two. Okay. Please read this one.
Each and every individual in the material world is controlled by the higher demigods. For example, we have our senses, but the senses are controlled by superior controlling deities. We cannot see without light, and the supreme controller of light is the sun. The sun god is in the sun planet, and we, the individual human beings or any other beings on this earth, are all controlled by the sun god as far as our eyes are concerned. Similarly, all the senses we have are controlled by the superior demigods. We are also as much living entities as we are, but one is empowered while the other is controlled. The
Yeah,
controlled living,
continue.
the controlled living entity is called the Adhyatmic person, and the controller is called the Adidevik person.
Hmm. So here we are not basically Prabhupada explaining more deeply with an example of sun god, eyes and the eyesight. We will see in the coming all the section from 10 to 35. All these will be explained one by one. So there will we'll go a little more deeper to understand. But the controlled living entity is called Adhyatmic person and the controller is called Adidaivic person. That which distinguishes the controller and controlled, the material body, is called Adibhautik Purusha. Which distinguishes the controller and controlled. What is distinguishing between a controller and controlled? That is material body. How it's material body? So as we discussed the gross body, we discussed it as the Adibhautika. Right? The gross body we defined as Adibhautika Purusha or Adibhautika Tattva. Adhyatmika is a subtle body. Of course, Prabhupada mentioned Adhyatmika is Adhyatmic person, the controlled living entity. What is controlled living entity is most of subtle bodies. It's more of subtle body. Because all the software is there in the subtle program. Just like computer has the software and the hardware both. But what runs the everything is the software. The external is just a manifestation of the inner software. So similarly, all what is there internally is just manifested through the gross body. So Adhyatmika is a subtle body. Adibhautika is the gross body, just like Prabhupada mentioned here, the material body. And controller of these two is Adidaivika, the personality, Adidaivika personalities. So what distinguishes the controller and controlled is called material. That is material body. That is called Adibhauti Purusha. Because between these two, our only difference is gross body. They have a different gross body. The controllers, we have a different gross body. That's how it's that which distinguishes the controller and controlled. Of course, both the subtle body and gross body are a little bit different for every living entity, especially those who are staying in upper planetary systems. And even every one of us also have little differences between elements. May be same. Elements are same definitely everywhere, but there is a distinction between how they form. So Prabhupada explains how it's a difference between there is a difference between controller gross body and controlled gross body or the metal body. How that is different. Just like he gives example of a sun planetary sun god and us. He has a different body and we have a different body. So that's how he explains the difference. So basically the point is that we are working with two bodies and these two bodies are also controlled by another personalities, different personalities. They are called Aditaivika personalities. Okay, text 9. Ekam ekatara bhave yada nopala bhamahe Tritayam tatra yogeda satma swashraya. Please read. Hare Krishna.
All three of the above mentioned stages of different living entities are independent. In the absence of
Interdependent.
interdependent. In the absence of
Yeah,
one, another is not understood. But the Supreme Being, as the shelter of the shelter, sees every one of them and is independent of all. Therefore, he is the supreme shelter.
yeah. That's why he's distinguished from all these three. All these three in the sense like Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, Adidaivika. These three are interdependent. They are not independent themselves. But Traitam Tatra Yo Veda Sa Atma Swashra Ashraya. So the Supreme Soul is entirely independent of all these three above mentioned. Stages of mentioned all three of above mentioned stages of different living entities are interdependent. So here, see, you clearly mentioned, the above mentioned stages are mentioned. They are not personalities, they are stages. That's so Adi Daivika. Though it's mentioned Purusha there, but they are stages. Just like subtle form, subtle gross body, subtle body, gross body, and the controllers of them, controller of the both. So they are all three are independent, they're interdependent. They cannot work independently. So, but but the independent of all of the three is the Supreme Lord Himself, as a Supreme Shelter. Please read this one.
There are innumerable living entities, one dependent on the other in the relationship of the controlled and the controller. But without the medium of perception, no one can know or understand who is the controlled and who is the controller.
So, without the medium of the Supreme Shelter, we cannot understand. He gives example of some sun, same thing. Without sun, we cannot see also. Though we may have eyes, but without sunlight, we cannot see. Without having our eyes, the sunlight is useless. And without sunlight, the eyes are useless. Thus, they are interdependent. Neither of them is independent. So, who made this interdependence? The one who has made such relationship of interdependence must be ultimately completely independent. That is the Supreme Lord. So, who has made this one? The sun and the eyes are the products of here. Because the sun is the supreme controller, Adi Daivika. Right. The eye, the eyesight, we will see that one. It may become a little complex if you explain, but it's easy to understand. We have eyes, though we may have eyeballs. Some may not have the eyesight. Right. Though one may have eyeballs, one may not be able to see because of lacking the power to see from inside. That is called the subtle aspect of the eye. So though we may have eyes, but if sun is not there, we cannot see. If sun is there, if eyes are not there, we cannot see. And even sun is there, eyes are there, but we don't have the subtle eye, the eye power to see. Those who are blind, they also don't have. For them, they also can't see in three cases. So all three are interdependent. As I said, the subtle, the gross, and the controller of both. The subtle aspect is the power to see, the gross aspect of the eye, and the controller is the sun. These three has to be there to function in the body. But the three are interdependent. They are neither of one is independent in its own aspect. Even sun is controlled by someone else. That's the main point. That's the point here. Hope you are understanding. So the power to see is a subtle aspect. Subtle body is in the subtle body. Power to see is in the subtle body. So I'm just explaining now so that the further things are more easy to understand. Though we may spend some time here. Later on, all the things are the same formula. It works. Tomorrow I'll make some small kind of. You can see in Subodhini also. A beautiful diagram is made explaining the principle. There is a subtle body and the gross body and the controller of both two. Above all three, the Supreme Lord. So that's how the function is going on. The interdependence here is exclusively mentioned to separate the independent controller of these three. The power to see. Example we are taking to see because Prabhupada is explaining here the sun example. The power to see is there in the subtle body. It's called Chakshu. Netra is different from Chakshu. We will see in the coming verses. So Netra is there in the subtle body. And the Chakshu Chakshu is the subtle body, Netra is the eyeball, the gross eyeball that we have. And the sun is the controller of both, the dominating controller deity, the sun. So three has to be there to see to manifest the function of seeing, the subtle aspect, the gross aspect, and the controller, the sun. So, but these three are interdependent, and these three are depend on one personality who is independent of all. So that is the personality, the Supreme Lord. Because these three are working, there is a system is made. Who made the system? That's why Prabhupada is raising the question. Who made the interdependence? The one who has made such a relationship of the interdependence must be ultimately completely independent. So he should be ultimately completely independent, then only he can make. So that's how he defines the Supreme Lord. So this is the main understanding of here all these verses. Okay, please read.
This ultimate source of all interdependence is the supreme truth or Paramatma, the super soul, who is not dependent on anything else. He is Swashraya dependent only on himself, and thus he is the supreme shelter of everything. Still, Paramatma and Brahman are subordinate to Bhagavan because Bhagavan is Purushottama or the super person, the source of both the super soul and Brahman.
Yeah, Prabhupada brings out one more point here that he is Bhagavan, he is Krishna himself, and even Paramatma and Brahma are subordinate. They also take shelter of the Supreme Lord, because Paramatma is only a feature of this material world. And this aspect we need to remember. Paramatma is only in this creation. Paramatma is not existing in this spiritual world. When you talk about Paramatma, means that we are talking in reference to the creation. He is existing here only. And Brahman of course, Brahman is the Brahmano hi pratishtaham. I am the shelter for the Brahman, Gita itself says. And Prabhupada that substantiate the same thing here by saying how Krishna is a shelter for all. And then he explains about differences between living entities and Supreme Lord. Yeah, because the individual living entity, the Jiva, is always dependent on the Super Soul Paramatma. Because the individual soul forgets his spiritual identity, whereas Super Soul Paramatma does not forget his transcendental position. So the dependence aspect is explaining more how we are dependent on the Supreme Lord. That concept Prabhupada is explaining. So that's how he brought out the differences. So the verse is talking about that there is an interdependence of these three aspects: Adhyatmic, Adibhautik, and Adidaivik. There is an interdependence of these three. Apart from that, there is an independent personality, Swashraya, who is completely independent. So that's how Prabhupada is bringing the aspect of how we are dependent on Supreme Lord and what is the difference between these two. And yeah, that's how we explained that one. Okay, you can read the last para. Someone can read.
The propaganda of the identity of cosmic consciousness with the consciousness of the individual living entities is completely misleading, because even such a person or individual soul as Arjuna could not remember his past deeds, although he is always with the Lord. And what can the tiny ordinary man, falsely claiming to be one with the cosmic consciousness, know about his past, present, and future?
So we cannot claim that I am the cosmic consciousness. All right. Okay. Now till now the subject is explained about the Dashalakshana, 10 characteristics, and how even a small portion is also explained about the creation aspect, how these three are created, the subtle aspect of subtle body, Adhyatmic, gross elements, Adi Bhautik, and even the controllers, the sun, the moon, all this personality, in the sense that they are the not just personality, they are also has to be manifested. They are being given controller of that particular energy, sun, moon, etc. So they are the controllers in that sense. So they are Adi Daivika, Adhyatma, Adi Bhuta, and Adi Daiva. So these three are explained, and the personality is exclusively separated. He is the independent controller of these three as well. That's how it's mentioned now. So from here, the aspects of Sarga starts, how the primary creation started. Okay. Purushondam vinirvidya yada sosa vinirgataha atmano yanam anvichan aposrakshi shuchihi. Please read.
After separating the different universes, the gigantic universe in form of the Lord Mahavishnu, which came out of the causal ocean, the place of appearance for the first Purusha avatar, entered into each of the separate universes, desiring to lie on the created transcendental water, Garbhodaka.
Please read.
After analysis of the living entities and the Supreme Lord, Paramatma, the independent source of all other living beings, Srila Shukadev Goswami is now presenting the prime necessity for devotional service to the Lord. This is the only occupational business of all living entities.
Yeah, here he is giving a purpose of the creation itself, the prime necessity for devotional service. Okay, but the verse is saying that after separating different, basically now situation is that from Brahmanda, from Mahavishnu, from the Karanal Sai Vishnu or Mahavishnu, all the Brahmandas came out, and he is now entering as first Purusha avatar, Garbhoda Sai Vishnu, Garbhodaka, so Mahavishnu is the Karanal Sai Vishnu or Mahavishnu. The place of appearance of first Purusha, and enter into each separate universe, desiring to lie on the created transcendental water. So this is the main point of the verse that Prabhupada explains about the same aspects of the creation, the purpose of creation. He also explains Purusha Avataras, how they enter. He raises a beautiful point. Why again and again you people talk about creation? Some people may ask. So he is quoting from Vishwanath Chakravarti. Please read. It's a beautiful.
From the one Lord then reveals the transcendental Leela of the Lord as exhibited in the land of Mathura and Vrindavan, which are sweeter than anything in the world. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur replied that the pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan are meant to be relished by advanced devotees of the Lord. Neophyte devotees will misunderstand such supreme transcendental activities of the Lord, and therefore the Lord's pastimes in the material sphere related to creation, maintenance, and destruction are verily relishable by the Prakrit Bhaktas, or mundane devotees of the Lord.
Yeah. So here the question why again and again the creation is told in the especially second canto and now fifth chapter and now again third canto 2-3 times and fifth canto again one time and more I think around 4-5 times it comes the whole creation aspect, which is very quite bewildering and quite not, of course a little bit we need to scratch our heads to understand. But it is mainly to Prabhupada, Srila Vishwanath Thakur, and also Prabhupada mentioning, don't just try to jump to Krishna's Leelas or any other Leelas, because we may misunderstand the personality itself. Through these creation aspects, the greatness is explained. That's the main point. The sweetness and the greatness both need to understand. But the greatness, when we understand his personality, how he creates, how he maintains, how he enters, how he does all these things. So when we come to that sweetness pastime, then we understand that this is the same personality who is though he might appear to be doing something which is not at all befitting to my tiny brain, but it's the same personality who is doing all such miraculous acts. So Prabhupada takes that same point and smashes all these people who are all on the bodily platform and trying to understand the Supreme Lord's pastimes. And from scientific point of view, they also understand that there are laws behind the creation, and that means there should be lawmaker, right? So, but that they don't see. If their laws are there, that means the lawmaker has to be there. But they forget the lawmaker, and they are just trying to beat themselves with the laws, and they are trying to crack their heads and to understand more and more without the understanding of the lawmaker. But we need to understand the Supreme Lord is behind everything. That personality need to understand from this great universe. So Prabhupada is bringing this kind of a preaching application as well. That such a universe, you are trying to find laws, but there should be lawmaker also. Maya Dakshana is quoting that verse to prove that there is a personality behind everything. That personality that personality has to be understood from all these manifestations also. So that is the main point here. If you don't understand, if there is an improper understanding, then it will increase only misunderstanding. Please read this one.
Improper understanding increases misunderstanding. The Lord is, however, visible to the naked eyes of people in general when he descends by his own personal potency. Lord Krishna incarnated himself as he is and played very wonderful parts as the Lord himself. And the Bhagavad Gita concerns such wonderful actions and knowledge. Yet foolish men will not accept Lord Krishna as the Supreme Lord.
So he'll continue the same argument, same point on the why we should not jump to sweet leelas directly. Because even when he appears directly, many personalities could not even comprehend his personality, his activities, his leelas. So that's he is saying. Please read this one.
Right understanding. When, however, the Mudas give submissive oral reception to the messages of the Lord in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam transmitted through the channel of disciplic succession, such Mudas also become devotees of the Lord by the grace of his pure devotees. And for this reason only, in both the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of the Lord in the material world are delineated for the benefit of those men with a poor fund of knowledge.
So because the whole creation aspect started, the question was raised by the Acharyas and Prabhupada himself that why to study again the creation aspect. No, we need to understand, that's what Prabhupada is mentioning, that we need to understand his greatness by again and again. And through this greatness also the glory is explained. So that's the main point of the purport of Prabhupada. Yeah. So text 11. Tasvavasi swasrushtasu sahasram parivatsaram tena narayano nama yadapaha purushotbhavaha. Is it?
That Supreme Person is not impersonal and therefore is distinctively a Nara or person. Therefore, the transcendental water created from the Supreme Nara is known as Nara. And because he light on the water, he is known as Narayan.
Yeah. This verse is giving the understanding of name Narayan. One understanding, one definition. The water which comes from Nara, the divine distinct personality, is called Nara. And the personality who is taking shelter or lying down on the water is called Narayan. And Nara also, one more meaning is that Nara is a congregation of all the living entities. And who take shelter of that personality is also Narayan. Because all the jivas take shelter of Garbhoda Sai Vishnu during Naimittika Pralaya or Atyantika Pralaya. Prakriti Pralaya in Karna Sai Vishnu, because they take shelter. That's why he is also called Narayan. Okay. So now Lord entered into the Garbhoda Ocean, in the Brahmanda, each Brahmanda, and he produced from him only the water. This is the transcendental water. Half of the each Brahmanda is filled, and he is lying down on the water. Garbhoda Ocean, Garbhoda Sai Vishnu. So that is explained in that verse. He is Narayan. Dravyam karma cha kalascha swabhavo jiva eva cha yad anugrahatah santi na santi yadupekshaya. Please read.
One should definitely know that all material ingredients
Your voice is breaking.
Time and modes.
Yeah, please continue.
And the living entities who are made to enjoy them all exist non-existent. Shall I continue?
Yeah.
The living entities are the enjoyers of the material ingredients, time, modes, etc. because they want to lord it over the material nature. The Lord is the supreme enjoyer, and the living entities are made to assist the Lord in his enjoyment and thus participate in the transcendental enjoyment of everyone. The enjoyer and the enjoyed both participate in enjoyment, but deluded by the illusory energy, the living entities want to become the enjoyer like the Lord, although they are not meant for such enjoyment.
So one should know definitely all these are given by. So Prabhupada explaining about how when Lord glances on the Prakriti, so all the along with karma, kala, jiva, and their swabhava, and the karmas, everything manifested by Prakriti, and they will be manifesting. But without his mercy, they are not manifesting. This is in reference to Karnal Sai Vishnu. And inside also what is happening is explained here. Once the creation happens, once the Brahmanda, once the Garbhoda Sai Vishnu enters inside, and all the living entities along with karma, Prakriti brings and again invests in each Brahmanda according to their own karmas and etc. She divides into all the different Brahmandas. Because by glance of the Karnal Sai Vishnu, all the jivas along with Kala, the glance itself is called Kala. The glance has that elements, Kala, Jiva, along with their karma and swabhava. So when Prakriti gives all the living entities, she divides into different planetary systems. Not planetary systems, different Brahmandas. She sends everyone, all the living entities according to their desires, to different Brahmandas. Now all the living entities again come take shelter of Garbhoda Sai Vishnu within each Brahmanda. So that's the main point here. All the jivas are manifesting in each Brahmanda now. So that's what Prabhupada explains. The jivas, living entities, how they are trying to enjoy, how they are trying to get caught. So in the material world, the spirit of enjoyment of the living entities by dint of their own actions, karma, gradually fades by the laws of nature, and thus the illusory energy dictates in the ears of the conditioned souls that they should become one with the Lord. This is the last nature of illusory energy. When the last illusion is also cleared off by the mercy of the Lord, the living entity becomes reinstated in his original position and thus becomes actually liberated. Yeah. Now, Prabhupada gives more understanding of how they are getting caught, how they can be liberated. Same point we many times read. So the living entities are therefore completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, and all their so-called enjoyments by scientific improvement are crushed into dust when the Lord desires. Yeah, he's explaining that upekshita, edupekshita, when na santi edupekshita, when he doesn't, when he neglects, basically all this will not manifest again. non-existing. So that's the main point of the verse. Text 13. Ekona tvam anvichan yogo talpat samuttitaha Viryam hiranmayam devo mayaja visrujatritha. Please read.
The Lord, while lying on his bed of mystic slumber, generated the seminal symbol golden in hue through external energy out of his desire to manifest varieties of living entities from himself alone.
So he manifested this Hiranmaya Garbha, the subtle, the Brahmanda itself, which is divided into three dimensions, the three features which Srijat he created. So this verse is explaining about the creation of Brahmanda, as we understood from the Karuna Sai Vishnu. He creates all the Brahmandas. So the Brahmandas, into the Brahmanda, how Lord entered inside, and now he is himself is manifesting as the universal form that is explained here. So now the Garbhoda Sai Vishnu lying on the waters, now he starts manifesting the universal form. So generally, we universal form, though we may say universal form, but it is the creation of the Lord. It's Virata Purusha, we say, though he is not the personality in one sense, right? He is the Kalpita. We imagine that he is a personality, but these are only planetary systems, right? So now Garbhoda Sai Vishnu is lying on the Garbhoda ocean. He himself reflects in the universal form, Virat Rupa. So that Virat Rupa is now manifesting. Slowly it will manifest because the Samishti. Now here one more terminology we need to understand. There is a Samishti and a Veshti. Veshti in the sense individual, like us, individuals. We have gross body, we have subtle body, and we, the souls, are existing in these two bodies. So similarly, Samishti, Veshti and Samishti. What is there in Ananda, same thing is there in Brahmanda. That's how the Upanishad says. What is there in the Anda, same thing is in Brahmanda also. So what is gross body? Just like we have gross body, subtle body, and the soul. We are the souls having these two bodies. Similarly, the Samishti, the whole cosmic creation has the gross manifestations, and there is a subtle manifestation, and the Paramatma himself. Who is the Paramatma? Who is Paramatma in the Samishti creation? Can anyone else say who is the Paramatma?
Shirodakshai Vishnu.
Now, Shirosai Vishnu, who is the Shirosai Vishnu when he manifests? Now, Shirosai Vishnu is the Paramatma of individual living entities. Right? When he expands, when Garbhoda Sai Vishnu expands into everyone as a small, he expands into all the living entities, the creation himself, then it's called Shirosai Vishnu. The Garbhoda Sai Vishnu himself is a Paramatma of the Brahmanda. So Samishti means we are talking about here Brahmanda. So I mean, I don't have any. If you have board, then we can explain. But I think maybe tomorrow I'll try to draw some picture and try to explain. So Brahmanda
you
is
can
called,
try to annotate. You can annotate if you want to.
tomorrow I'll try. Almost time is over now, but tomorrow I'll explain more. Yeah, that Brahmanda is one Brahmanda. Basically, we understand from Karuna Sai Vishnu, all the Brahmandas come out. Now we consider each Brahmanda. So each Brahmanda, inside each Brahmanda, there is Garbhoda Sai Vishnu. From Garbhoda Sai Vishnu, now the planetary systems has to manifest, right? So the whole planetary system, what we call is Virat Rupa. Of course, from him, the Kamala comes, the lotus comes. The lotus, within the lotus only all these planetary systems is there existing, the 14 planetary systems. So all the planetary systems is called Virat Rupa, what we read in the second canto, right? The Virat Purusha. So the Virat Purusha is just is a reflection of the Garbhoda Sai Vishnu only, right? A reflection is that we are imagining that he's a kind of a Purusha, planetary system from Patala to the Brahmaloka, the feet and all the limbs of the Virat Purusha. So the Garbhoda Sai Vishnu himself is trying to manifest the Samishti Purusha or the Virat Purusha. He has his gross body and he has his subtle body. Subtle body in the sense that all the living entities of the subtle body is conglomerated, is considered the subtle body of the Samishti. All the gross elements, just like we have all these gross elements in our body, especially as a gross body, all the conglomeration of all the gross elements is the gross body of Virat Purusha. Same thing. One person is called Veshti and Samishti is for Virat Purusha. So one person we have, let us consider, take example of ourselves only. Gross body, subtle body and soul. So Samishti also has a gross body, in sense all the elements of gross elements. That is called Samishti gross body. And it has also subtle body, just like we have subtle body. All the conglomeration of all the living entities subtle body is called the Hiranyagarbha. That specific term is used, Hiranyagarbha, that is called subtle body of the whole Samishti. And the soul, the soul itself is, he himself is a Garbhoda Sai Vishnu. Just like Garbhoda Sai Vishnu is a soul, consider a subtle body, though we should not consider his subtle body, but he created the subtle body and he created the gross body. So from the gross body, we also took the gross elements and we formed our gross body. From the subtle aspects, subtle body, we also took our subtle body. And we ourselves are not created, we are souls only, we are being given these two. So that's the understanding here. So that subtle body also, the subtle body came, and all these are now it's divided. Now what comes from Garbhoda Sai Vishnu, now it will be divided into three aspects. Now it will be divided into three aspects of the creation. So that is explained here. We will see in the next verses. So of course Prabhupada explains the same aspects in different. Okay, we can read this and we'll pause here. Please read.
Before the creation or manifestation of the material cosmic world, the Lord exists as total energy and thus desiring himself to be diffused to many. He expands himself further into the multi-total energy. From the multi-total energy, he further expands himself into individuals in three dimensions, namely Adhyatmic, Adidevik, and Adibhautik, as explained before. As such, the whole creation and the creative energies are non-different and different simultaneously, because everything is an emanation from him, the Mahavishnu or Mahasamasti. Nothing of the cosmic energies is different from him, but all such expanded energies have specific functions and display as designed by the Lord, and therefore they are simultaneously different from the Lord. The living entities are also similar energy, marginal potency of the Lord, and thus they are simultaneously one with and different from him.
So we'll explain a little bit more tomorrow, maybe by drawing some diagram. But this is the understanding how now Lord is expanding into different elements to create the universe, to create the Virat Purusha. That's how the question was asked, how universal form came into picture. That is the main question. So now Garbhoda Sai Vishnu entered into the Brahmanda, one Brahmanda, and he is now start creating the primary creation. So once the primary creation, basically primary creation means he makes the lotus flower. On the lotus flower, lotus stem, there are 14 planetary systems. Now the Brahma is created, will be created by the Lord himself, and then further creation done by Brahma. So what Lord creates before Brahma creates, before Brahma recreates, is called primary creation, and that these details will be given by in this chapter from next verses. All these verses, how Lord is desiring and how things are manifesting as Samishti first, and then by using all these the gross conglomerated things, Brahma uses to form different Veshti things. So that's how all Samishti things will be formed by the Lord himself. So that will be explained in the further verses. Now further verses are more of a same format. So we'll go a little more faster from next verses. It doesn't take much time. Okay, thank you so much for your patient hearing. So we'll meet tomorrow. Mostly we'll definitely complete tomorrow, because many of the verses just explain the aspect of how they are created, different elements. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Tomorrow we'll see if there are any questions also. Hare Krishna. Pranam Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, creation aspects ki jai. Hare Bhagavan. Panchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyasya
Vasundubhyacha patitanam pavanam.
Vaishnavibhyo.
Namo Namah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, brother.